Long ago, before the ticking of clocks or the printing of books in lands where winds carried the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh, there existed a curious game. It was not yet called chess, and its pieces bore no names we would now recognize, but the spirit of the contest, intellect against intellect, foresight against chance, already stirred gently in the hearts of early civilizations. In the mist-veiled valley of the Indus and along the silk-laced rivers of ancient India, there rose a pastime known as Chaturanga, a game woven into the fabric of courtly life strategy and stories passed from elder to child. This game, born in the 6th century, was like a mirror to the world in which it emerged, a world of dynasties, battlegrounds, and spiritual quests. It bore 4 arms, like the mighty armies it emulated: infantry, cavalry, elephants, and chariots. Each unit moved with purpose, and together they danced across the squares in patterns echoing war and wisdom. The boards were simple, often etched into stone or sewn into cloth. Players sat cross-legged on the earth, contemplating not just victory, but balance, karma, and fate. Moves were slow, deliberate, guided not only by rules, but by intuition, as if each piece held a sliver of the stars above. From the courts of Gupta kings to monastic retreats nestled in the highlands, Chaturanga spread like moonlight on still water. And as it traveled, it changed like the murmurs of a dream fading into morning light. Across the arid plateaus of Persia, it became Shatranj. The language changed. The pieces were renamed, some subtly, others entirely. The elephant became the bishop's ancestor. The chariot whispered of rooks yet to come. And the powerful counselor, once guarding the throne with modest range, began her slow metamorphosis into the queen we know today. In the grand halls of the Persian Empire, where mosaics glittered like constellations and poetry flowed like honeyed wine, Shatranj was a game of status and intellect. Masters of the game, called Shatranjian, composed intricate problems, riddles of strategy and foresight that still echo in the minds of modern players. They played not for coin, but for glory and the thrill of mastery. And when the Sassanids fell, and the desert winds carried the banners of the caliphate across Persia, the game was not destroyed. It was cherished, adopted, refined. The Islamic Golden Age brought a flowering of science, philosophy, and yes, games. Scholars preserved the ancient Indian manuscripts and expanded upon them, writing tomes in Arabic about the art of Shatranj, cataloging positions and endings as if they were recording the stars. They spoke of the art of the opening, the beauty of a balanced middle game, and the poetic tragedy of a losing end. And through the libraries of Baghdad, the courts of Cordoba, and the winding alleys of Cairo chess found fertile ground. It sailed westward, with traders and scholars across deserts and seas, cradled in silk and spoken in many tongues. When it reached the golden shores of Al-Andalus, it mingled with music, geometry, and architecture. The Moors embraced it, and their Christian neighbors, curious and contemplative, embraced it too. And so the game slipped into Europe, where winter fogs curled through castle corridors, and monks inked its secrets into parchment. The pieces changed again, no longer elephants and viziers, but bishops and queens, reflecting a new social order. And still beneath every move, every check, every quiet surrender, the soul of Chaturanga remained. It is here, as the medieval world begins to stir with crusades and cathedrals, that our journey shall continue, where the board remains the same, yet the pieces are caught in the tides of history, destined to evolve with the hearts of those who move them. Let your thoughts drift gently now, like a pawn inching forward on a quiet board, its path lit by candlelight and dreams of grandeur. And so the game crossed into medieval Europe, cloaked in mystery and reverence, passing through abbeys and noble courts like a whispered prophecy. In those stone halls, echoing with Gregorian chant and the flicker of torchlight chess, took on the character of the world around it, rigid, hierarchical, yet filled with silent tensions and subtle grace. The board became more than a battlefield. It was a mirror of the feudal world, a reflection of divine order. Kings and queens presided, flanked by noble bishops and staunch knights. Castles, what we now call rooks, stood firm on the corners, guarding the realm with stony silence. And in front of them, all, the pawns, peasants, foot soldiers, the humblest of all. But even they in time held the promise of transformation. For if a pawn journeyed far enough, reaching the edge of its world, it could become a queen, an idea both radical and poetic. Europe, with its cloisters and courtrooms, its troubadours and theologians, began to make the game its own. The rules shifted, slowly at first, then decisively. The vizier, a modest piece in earlier times, was reborn as the queen, and with her came a tempest of change. Where once she moved gently now, she swept across the board like a storm, the most powerful force in the game. Some say her new strength mirrored the rise of queens, like Isabella of Castile, commanding both armies and hearts. The bishop, once a war elephant or counselor, now leapt diagonally across the board, its long strides cutting through the orthodoxy of earlier rules. The pace of the game quickened. What was once contemplative and meandering now shimmered with urgency and possibility. Scholars and players alike took note, penning treatises, poems and manuals, some instructional, others devotional. By the 15th century, this new form of chess la scacchi alla rabbiosa, or madwoman's chess, as it was sometimes called in Italy, for the queen's terrifying power, had spread through France, Spain, and beyond. It became not just a game of war, but of courtly love politics and spiritual reflection. Some bishops declared it a divine allegory. Others feared it distracted from piety. But kings and nobles adored it, and the game flourished, capturing minds and kindling rivalries. The Renaissance dawned, and with it came the age of recorded games. Manuscripts no longer merely described rules, they preserved battles. The echoes of real matches, real minds preserved in ink for all time. One of the first known printed books, On Chess Repetición de Amores y Arte de Ajedrez, by Luis Ramírez de Lucena, offered not just positions and puzzles, but a window into the soul of the game at that time, an age suspended between tradition and innovation. Chess had become a cultural beacon, a symbol of intellect and refinement. It was no longer just played by royalty and scholars. Merchants, artisans, and curious villagers began to sit before the board learning its patterns and possibilities. Coffee houses began to rise warm aromatic havens, where strangers gathered to sip, speak, and engage in the slow dance of pawns and queens. And so the pieces moved not just across boards, but across the very tapestry of civilization. From the snowy courts of Russia to the sunlit plazas of Florence, from the dusty villages of Bavaria to the storm-lashed shores of England, chess found a home in hearts both humble and grand. Yet, as the world expanded through voyages and revolutions through science and steel, the game, too, would change. New masters would rise bold and brilliant, reshaping strategies and formalizing the sport. Tournaments would be born, clocks would tick, and the quiet grace of chess would meet the thunder of modernity. But before we arrive at that turning point, rest now, dear listener. Let the clinking of goblets and the whisper of parchment lull you. Picture the flickering glow of candlelight over carved wooden boards, the rustle of robes, the soft chant of monks debating a checkmate line. The queen waits patiently. The knight rests beside her, coiled like a spring. The board is set, the next stage near. As dawn broke upon the age of enlightenment, the game of chess stood on the cusp of its next transformation. It had already traveled through empires, been caressed by monks' fingers, and debated in candlelit salons, but now, under the fresh questioning light of reason, it would be shaped by minds eager to systematize the world. The 18th century brought with it a thirst for order and mastery. Chess, once a romantic battlefield of intuition and flair, began to reveal its deeper geometry. It was no longer enough to simply know how the pieces moved. One had to understand why to see not just the next move, but the shape of the game to come. Strategy blossomed like the symphonies of Mozart, with elegance and symmetry guiding the hands of new masters. In France, a quiet revolution stirred across the boards. The Café de la Régence in Paris became a sanctum for thinkers, poets, and players. Beneath its vaulted ceilings and drifting pipe smoke legends arose. One such figure was François-André Danican Philidor, a musician by trade, but a maestro of the 64 squares. His theory that pawns are the soul of chess changed the way the world viewed the lowliest piece. Philidor saw beyond the clatter of queens and rooks. He listened to the quiet murmurs of structure, to the slow, steady push of pawns building toward a final crescendo. As the Enlightenment matured, chess moved further into the public eye. Clubs formed in London, Vienna, Berlin. Books and pamphlets filled with annotated games and lessons reached eager hands. No longer confined to the courts or cloisters, chess became a shared language, a pastime of scholars and students, gentlemen and revolutionaries alike. Then, as the 19th century unfurled like a satin curtain, the age of the gentleman champion began. Tournaments were no longer informal skirmishes in smoky cafes. They became structured, celebrated events. In 1851, at the Great Exhibition in London, the first international chess tournament was held. It was there the world saw the brilliance of Adolf Anderssen, whose sacrificial style inspired awe. His immortal game, played later that decade, would come to represent the golden age of romantic chess, where beauty, daring, and creativity danced in perfect step. But change was stirring again, this time from a place of precision rather than passion. Wilhelm Steinitz, a man of method and doctrine, emerged as a prophet of a new era. He spoke not in flourishes but in principles. He argued that chess was not just art, but science, that every move had a reason, that attacks must be prepared, that positions had laws. The community resisted at first, clinging to their romantic ideals, but Steinitz's theories proved as enduring as stone. In 1886, he was crowned the first official world chess champion. From that point, chess began to crystallize. Time controls were introduced, turning languid hours into measured moments. Clocks ticked like tiny hearts beside the board. Federations formed. Rankings appeared. And above all, new minds began to rise, names that would echo through time. As the 20th century approached, a brilliant constellation of masters emerged. Immanuel Lasker, both mathematician and philosopher, reigned as world champion for an astonishing 27 years. His chess was adaptive fluid. He played not the board, but the man across from him. After him came José Raúl Capablanca of Cuba, whose style was pure and effortless, like water flowing downhill. Many believed he was untouchable, the embodiment of natural genius. But no genius lasts forever. In 1927, from the heart of the Soviet Union came Alexander Alekhine, fiery, creative, ruthless. His battles with Capablanca were more than games. They were ideologies, colliding emotions in harmony and dissonance. With Alekhine, chess once again became a theater of drama, brilliance, and shadows. And all the while in quiet corners of the world, children studied their moves, elders taught by firelight, and dusty books passed from hand to hand. The board remained unchanged, but the dreams it held were infinite. Now, we approach a world in upheaval, 2 great wars on the horizon, machines soon to hum in thought, and a nation preparing to cradle the game in its iron hand. Let the night hold you gently here, as the great minds sleep beneath stone and stars, and the whisper of history carries you onward. Through the smoke of wars and revolutions amidst the shattered echoes of fallen empires, the game of chess endured quiet, steadfast like a monk in meditation, while the world raged outside. As the 20th century unfurled its wings, so brilliant and so bruised, a new chapter in chess history began to take shape. One forged in ideology, intellect, and a race for supremacy, not only across the board, but across borders. In the wake of the Russian Revolution, as czars gave way to comrades, and crimson banners were unfurled across the steppes, the Soviet Union recognized something in chess, something powerful. It was not merely a pastime, but a tool of prestige, a symbol of intellectual might that could be cultivated and displayed on the world stage. And so, within the walls of schools and academies, within barracks and libraries, chess was nurtured like a seed in fertile soil. Children were taught its patterns with the same seriousness as mathematics and literature. Coaches studied old games as priests once pored over scriptures. The state, in its all-seeing gaze, ensured that promising talents were never left unseen. It was a machine of mastery, and from it champions emerged. One of the earliest stars to rise was Mikhail Botvinnik. Stern, disciplined, a man of scientific precision, he embodied the Soviet ideal patient, principled and utterly focused. Under his influence, and with the backing of the state, the Soviet chess school became the gold standard. The world watched in awe, and often in envy, as Soviet grandmasters dominated tournament after tournament, weaving strategies as intricate as spider silk. Botvinnik's legacy was not just in victories, but in mentorship. From his teachings would come a line of titans, Tigran Petrosian with his fortress-like defense, Boris Spassky, elegant and adaptive, and the mercurial Mikhail Tal, whose games were like firework displays, brilliant, brief, and unforgettable. Tal played as if reality itself bent to his will, often choosing beauty over safety, sacrifice over certainty. Yet, far across the ocean, in a land of jazz and skyscrapers, another figure was taking shape, a child with a searing mind and a tempestuous soul. Bobby Fischer, a prodigy from Brooklyn, devoured chess with a hunger that few could match. He studied endlessly, played relentlessly, and spoke only through the thunderclap of his victories. By the early 1970s, The world watched in rapt attention as this lone American challenged the Soviet dynasty. The 1972 World Championship in Reykjavik, Iceland, between Fischer and Spassky, became more than a match. It was a Cold War played not with bombs, but with bishops. The quiet tension of each move echoed the world's anxieties. And when Fischer won brilliantly decisively, the board itself seemed to shudder with change. Fischer's triumph was a bolt of lightning across the landscape of chess. Yet as quickly as he rose, he vanished, retreating into the shadows of his own mind. He left behind not just a title, but a myth, and a hunger in the West for the game he had illuminated. Back in the Soviet Union, the wheel turned once more. New champions stepped forward, none brighter than Anatoly Karpov. Cold, calculated, almost surgical in his precision, Karpov returned the crown to the Soviet fold. He dominated through the 1970s, and into the 1980s, his style quiet but merciless. And then came Garry Kasparov, fierce as a tempest, intuitive and volcanic. Born in Baku, trained in the finest Soviet traditions, yet burning with a fire all his own. In 1985, he wrested the title from Karpov in a match of titanic intensity. Their rivalry, which spanned decades and styles, became legend, a clash not only of players, but of philosophies. Kasparov reigned for 15 years not just as champion, but as ambassador, reformer, and rebel. He embraced computers, explored new frontiers, and played games that seemed to bend the rules of reality. Under his leadership, chess entered the digital age. And yet something else stirred. The machines. The silent observers of human brilliance now learning, calculating, thinking. In 1997, the world held its breath as Kasparov faced Deep Blue, an IBM supercomputer. Their match was a milestone, not merely a game, but a question whispered into the future. Could a machine dream in pawns and kings? Deep Blue won. The world gasped, and chess forever had changed. But let your thoughts rest gently here. The storm of progress may gather on the horizon, but for now, beneath the shade of memory, the old board remains timeless, waiting. The pieces are set for a new century. The players are many, and the story is far from over. As the clock ticked into the 21st century, the world of chess stood at a strange and beautiful crossroads. The game, so ancient and storied, found itself not fading into obscurity, but thriving in ways once unimaginable. No longer the solemn pursuit of kings and cloistered scholars, chess now lived in every corner of the globe, in every glowing screen, every bustling schoolroom, every trembling moment before the first pawn stirred. After Kasparov's departure from the throne, the crown passed through many hands. In these early years of the millennium, a quiet uncertainty settled over the realm. Who among the many brilliant minds would be the next to wear the crown with authority? It was a young man from Norway with sea-gray eyes and the calm confidence of mountains who would answer that call. Magnus Carlsen, born in the mist and forests of Scandinavia, emerged like a song, soft, unassuming, and yet impossible to forget. He had an ease to his play, a flowing, natural intuition, as if the board spoke to him in whispers no one else could hear. Magnus ascended to the title of world champion in 2013 and held it for a decade with quiet brilliance. His style was not flashy or reckless. It was precise, adaptive, relentlessly logical, yet often poetic. He could squeeze victory from the barest thread of advantage, finding life in positions others had deemed dead. Watching him play was like watching a quiet tide turn a stone. Yet Magnus was not alone on the stage. A global chorus of talent rose with him. Fabiano Caruana from the United States, Ding Liren of China, Ian Nepomny Achchi from Russia, and countless others, each bearing the spirit of 1,000 games played in childhood, now sharpened into steel. Meanwhile, a new revolution stirred not in the grand halls of championships, but in the quiet clicks of a mouse, in the shimmer of blue light from laptop screens. The internet became chess's newest cathedral. From virtual arenas to online tournaments, from streaming platforms to instructional videos, the game transcended boundaries. Children in villages far from the great cities could now challenge masters, watch their idols, play in real time, and learn from libraries once hidden behind velvet ropes. And then, from the circuits and silicon, came a new kind of teacher. Chess engines, stockfish, Komodo, Houdini grew stronger each year, analyzing with a cold, patient brilliance beyond human grasp. They did not feel pressure. They did not dream. But they revealed truths that even the greatest human minds had overlooked. And when AlphaZero appeared in 2017, trained not by mimicry but by self-play, it reshaped the chess cosmos once again. Its games were not just powerful, they were alien, beautiful, terrifying. It sacrificed with joy, created positions of stunning depth, and seemed to dance upon the very edge of chaos. The machines had not replaced the soul of chess, they had deepened it. In this modern world, where children play blitz on mobile phones, where grandmasters live stream their thoughts in real time, and where computers whisper in every ear, the essence of chess remains untouched. The board is still the same with its 64 squares. The rules still echo the ancient forms. And the dreams, oh, the dreams still glow as warmly as ever. For what is chess, if not a story told in silence? A tale of struggle and balance, of risk and restraint of kings, toppling not by violence but by wisdom and wit. And so we arrive at the present day, the soft breath of history, still warm upon our cheeks. The world of chess stands vibrant and alive, both ancient and newborn, a quiet hum beneath the roar of modern life. Let us now drift gently into the stillness that follows such a journey. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the whisper of wooden pieces on felted boards echo like lullabies through your thoughts. Remember the deserts of India, the palaces of Persia, the courts of Europe, the cafes of Paris, the machines of the modern age. In every age, in every hand, chess has whispered the same eternal truths: patience, strategy, vision, humility. And whether played on marble or in memory, it remains a game for the mind and food for the soul. So, rest now, traveler. The game is never truly over. Even when the pieces return to their box, the echoes remain quiet. Moves in the dusk of thought. Endless possibilities unfurling in the darkness before sleep. Checkmate at last, not as an end, but as a gentle invitation to dream